So a lot of people that invest are investing from another country. There's a lot of investors that invest in U.S. real estate because it's one of the best markets in the world to invest. You can use leverage to go get great properties, multifamily, other types of commercial, or even single family properties. And actually, there's a lot of investors from Canada that are doing this. And my guest today, Seth Ferguson, he leads the Multifamily Conference in Canada, where he's having Grant Cardone and Alex Rodriguez come and speak in May of 2023. It's going to be awesome. He's here with me today to kind of share a little bit of his story and talk about what it looks like to invest in the U.S. from another country. So how's it going, Seth?
It's going. It's going. How's it going with you?
It's good. It's good to be able to connect with you, man. You're like the guy in Canada, man. It's just like you're everywhere. You're doing stuff. You got your mastermind. You've got your podcast you were doing. You've got this big conference that you're involved with. You're syndicating. You've been an agent. You've done a lot of stuff. So love to just you kind of take people through your journey a little bit and kind of how you got to be the Seth Ferguson of Canada, who's doing real estate everywhere.
All right. Well, I started off doing things the wrong way. Let's put it that way. I learned a whole bunch of lessons. I got started in real estate on the brokerage side because I was trying to make the NHL as a hockey referee.
Really? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I did it full time. I was in the US. I basically hit every single state lived out of a suitcase. But then I realized my window was closing and I needed a real job. So I figured I could sell houses. It would be so flexible. That wasn't the case. And then after a number of years, I realized that like most of my clients who were making the most amount of money, they did so through the real estate they owned. So that was a big light bulb moment because at the time, all my commission money was coming in. Like I was making really good money, but it was going out just as fast. For the fancy car, the big house I didn't really need, all that kind of stuff. so I had a partner at the time. We started acquiring some single family homes. It went really well. But then, I basically hit a roadblock where, like single family isn't scalable. You're signing on the loan. You have to give an arm and a leg, a kidney, and your firstborn child to get a mortgage. It was, I did so many things wrong. And then I discovered multifamily and it made a whole lot of sense.
It's so funny. I was just on the plane last night coming back from DC and I talked to a guy and he's like, oh, I want to buy a house and I want to do this. I don't know what is it innate in us that's like, we just think we have to start with single family. Because if I look back like over the last, 15 years of investing and all those years I did single family, I was like, man, I wish I just started with multifamily. It would have been so much easier. I would have scaled so much faster. And I mean, I'm grateful when, you can't be, too hard on yourself, but what is it about us that like just makes us think that I'm going to buy a rental house? I'm going to become financially free on like $100 a month in cash flow, maybe, kind of thing. Like, what is it about us?
Yeah. You know what, like you kind of mentioned the conference a little bit, and that was one of the driving forces why I started it. Cause I firmly believe like it's a lack of visibility of apartments is a lack of education. Like if somebody goes into the bank, the bank's going to like push their products. So where are people really hearing about apartment buildings?
Yeah, they're not.
No. And that's where like people watch HGTV with the real estate entertainment product. That's pie in the sky kind of stuff. But there's no easily digestible information about apartments. So naturally, people like, most people live in a house, they watch it on TV. So they just naturally gravitate towards houses when they're looking for investments. And then, the truth is most real estate agents out there, that they're not investor focused agents, and they don't really bring people those opportunities anyway. So yeah, like that's one of my goals is to make apartment investing more mainstream, because I think we can impact a lot of people and improve their portfolios and their life.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's really true. I think, the fact that we live in houses, we're familiar with houses, and people can generally think, okay, my payment is $3,000 a month or whatever it is. If I had another payment, I could afford that, or I could have a tenant paying it. It's very understandable because they're familiar with that model. But, there's Wall Street out there that, and I don't know how it is in Canada, but just there's these finance firms that pay, millions or billions of dollars to just educate people on how they should do like the safe traditional thing. And I used to be an investment advisor, and they talk about suitable investments. You had to get into a suitable investment for who you were. And it was like, who wants a suitable investment or a suitable spouse or a suitable vacation? Like we want something phenomenal, right? And you're right. So I love that you're an educator, and that's the same thing that I'm after too, is trying to get money out of Wall Street, out of big finance and into Main Street investments. So you've done that, and you've got this conference, and it sounds like it's a huge conference. You've been doing it for a number of years. How many? I know you got shut down with COVID, obviously. Canada's been like super intense with COVID, but you did one in 2019 or 2020, or when was the last one?
No, yeah. So the first one, so I'm the crazy guy who decided to launch a conference in the middle of a lockdown.
Did you get arrested?
Yeah.
Did the truckers come and join you?
Yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah, exactly.
But like no joke, my fiance and I were watching Shark Tank, and I like the world had shut down, right? In Canada, we were way more shut down than you guys were. And I turned to her, like, you know what? I'm going to have Kevin O'Leary speak at a real estate investing conference. And she looked at me and she's like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm serious. And sure enough, like a couple days later, I had Kevin booked and confirmed, and that was the start of the conference. So yeah, that was in this year, 2021. We had it. So Kevin was the guest, and it was great. We had about 1 month to sell tickets because we were completely shut down. And we were the very first major real estate event in the country. So I was pretty nervous.
How was the turnout? How many did you expect? How many did you get?
Yeah. We had over 1,000 people there. So it was really good. Like phenomenal. Like, and if COVID wasn't an issue, like we would have been like 2,500 people easy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So next year we got Grant Cardone. A-Rod owns a ton of units.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And yeah, we're right downtown Toronto, beside the CN Tower. It's going to be a whole lot of.
Well, I love that you're doing things that are big and ambitious, and you're going for it. I think I really believe in life. There's for those people that take action, even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you kind of figure it out on the way. And like you said, you're joking with your fiance, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to have Mr. Wonderful, and he's going to be there. And like a little later, you have him confirmed. And so like I love that you're doing. I love that you're taking major action. I've been really impressed with some of the stuff that you've done. Let's talk about a little bit about the real estate market. We know, obviously, being in Canada, a lot of investors find the U.S. to be attractive, and you do have some U.S. real estate. I was looking on your website, and you do deals, so people can reach out to you and kind of join your investment club as well. But what does it look like for somebody out of the U.S., such as in Canada, to invest in the U.S.? What's that process like? How difficult is it? How do the taxes work? All the stuff that kind of goes into that.
Yeah, so it's not as difficult as you would imagine, but the main thing is structuring. So it's you have to become familiar, or even easier, seek out an expert who actually knows what they're doing on the cross-border accounting side. Structuring is important because you want to avoid double taxation. Very easy to do. You just have to make sure you're structured the right way. For instance, a lot of Canadians, if they're looking to purchase a property in the U.S., they'll read online, oh, LLC is the best type of entity to use. As a Canadian, that's probably the worst thing you can do.
Okay.
So just little things like that. But if they're looking to invest in a fund or a syndication, you just have to make sure that it's structured to efficiently bring in Canadian dollars, and that way the Canadian can repatriate it back across the border and pay the normal amount of tax without doubling their tax bill, which is what you want to avoid.
Right. Now let's talk a little more specifics. I know you're not a CPA,
Sure.
I'm not a CPA, no specific advice, but so an LLC is not good. What type of structure usually works best? And I'm a syndicator, so how can I structure my investments so that Canadian investors want to invest? I'm just curious. Or if you're a Canadian investor, what sort of structure do you look for?
Yeah. So what you want to do is use an LP rather than an LLC.
Okay.
The reason is the Canada Revenue Agency, which is the US IR or like the IRS equivalent. CRA does not acknowledge or give you credit for anything that has passed or something that's come from an LLC because there's no Canadian equivalent. However, they do recognize an LP. So they're like, okay, well, we will credit you for any taxes that you've paid south of the border. And that way, you're not getting double tax. So it's every single week I get at least like 3 people who email me or contact me from my YouTube channel and like, hey, I just saw your video about this. Unfortunately, I've already done this and this and this. Like, is there a way? So yeah, it's a big problem, and it all comes down like this is why I'm so passionate about this stuff. Like
Yeah.
the education needs to be out there, and I think there's not, even yourself, like as somebody who's putting content out there, we are doing a disservice to ourselves and
Mm,
everybody else if we're not actively, talking about this stuff.
yeah.
There's people getting hurt just because they don't have the right information, right?
Yeah, it really is. Knowledge is power. I mean, it's just been able to reduce my taxes in the U.S. I don't know how it works in Canada, but almost to zero, to about a
Yeah.
1% rate, just because of. I mean, I don't know how. Is there such a thing as like the real estate professional of Canada where you get depreciation, you can really reduce your taxes pretty significantly? Are there a lot of incentives that, like, for you as a syndicator, can you pretty much pay almost no taxes? Is that possible?
Yeah, so the way Canadian taxes work is different.
Okay.
So in the U.S., bonus depreciation is being phased out, but there's no equivalent in Canada. Cost segregation works a little bit differently, and I think that's one of the reasons why there's such an interest from Canadians to invest in the U.S. Because let's be honest, the U.S. Tax code is more advantageous to investors, and
Totally.
might as well take advantage of it. So like even though bonus depreciation will kind of be phased out, there's still years left to take advantage of it. So, and as a Canadian, why not, right? Invest in the U.S. You've got the world's biggest capitalist economy there. That the scale, like you look at the population, like Canada's just a drop in the bucket compared to the U.S. Number of metros over 1 million people, significantly more. To be honest, I'd rather avoid the snow and
Yeah.
deal with the nice weather too, with like garden style where you can actually swim almost all year round. That kind of.
Hmm.
To me, there's a lot of advantages to the U.S. And lots of Canadians feel the same way.
Yeah, it is something that's really special. And I didn't realize that until, I've traveled to 40 countries and I talk to people from other places. And it's just, I talk with a lot of foreign investors, and it's just interesting because they're like, we don't have this we don't have these type of apartment setups. We don't have the type of financing you have in the US. We don't have these tax breaks. We don't have all these favorable things. And then, like you said, buying in we call them the Sun Belt states, kind of the Southeast where we do a lot of our work. It's just, you basically get to use leverage or use debt to buy these assets that we know in 5-10 years are going to be worth substantially more. And it's a way you can really short the currency, right? Because you're basically all this new money that's been printed, and you can actually take advantage of it. You can actually use it to your advantage. So if a property goes up by 25%, you haven't 25% increase on you haven't just had a small increase. You've actually doubled your money because of the amount you put down on a deal. Let's talk a little bit about just kind of the market itself. What are you seeing currently in the market? I know a lot of investors are a little cautious because, at least in the US, interest rates are rising and are saying, oh no, I can't get quite what I was getting before. Are you seeing some investor sentiment change, or what are you seeing as far as deals?
Well, I think, I'll tackle this question from two different viewpoints. One from like a syndicator viewpoint and another one from like an investor viewpoint. I think for syndicators and people actually, hunting the deals, we just have to be very cognizant of our underwriting and really think hard about what the future may look like in a couple of years. If we're going into a deal with bridge debt, what's it going to look like when we roll into conventional financing, right? Over the past couple of years, I think some people may have gone a little bit, not lazy with it, but it's like just assuming things will stay the way they are. So I'm a big proponent of creating a number of different scenarios and stress testing the deal and finding out at what point does it break.
Right.
So I think we have to really pay careful attention to that to make sure we are not surprised if something ends up happening down the road. From an investor standpoint, I think where else, with all the stuff, all the crap going on in the world, where else can we get the stability, the cash flow, the tax benefits? Like real estate is still, I believe, the ideal asset for today's world. There's no other asset that can give us all the different benefits to it. And when we look at, let's say the market does go to shit. I'm not sure if you have to beat that out or not. You look at how multifamily has performed over the past two recessions, plus now with what all the craziness in 2020 that started. There's no other asset class where I feel more comfortable putting my money.
Right.
So I think right now, when we're speaking with investors, or if you are an investor listening, you just have to look at the landscape and say, hey, listen, like, where's the best place to put my money? It's going to be apartment buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it is really amazing. It's a lot of people are confused, and the confused mind will just say wait. And I just don't think there's really any better deal out there than multifamily investing, especially in the U.S. because there's such a shortage of supply. Even with interest rates rising, even with valuations go down, you're doing value add type of deals. There's a huge margin of safety in there to really protect investors. Like we're seeing in Jacksonville, places we're buying the rents are $1,000. Well, the going rate after a light renovation of $6,000 per unit, the going rate's $1,560. So to have like a 57% upside, that's huge. So that gives Warren Buffett talks about the idea of a margin of safety, right? Having something that if things don't go exactly how you plan, you have a fallback. So I think that's really great. But a lot of people, Seth, I've realized, and this we were just talking about education. A lot of people have never done it. Maybe they've heard about it, or maybe they've never heard about it. But what do you think? Like, if somebody's like, this is the first thing they're listening to hear about you or me, or they're learning about multifamily, what's kind of step 1, 2, and 3, just to kind of like get their head around how multifamily works? Like maybe they've been single family, maybe they've been an agent, they've done flips, they've done other things, but I'm interested to do it, but I'm not quite sure how to get started.
Yeah. So great question. I've actually got those 3 steps. So I call it shift, prime, and invest. So shift is all about, shifting your mindset, right? Because, if you're going from single family to multifamily, you have to shift how you think about the asset. If you've never invested in real estate before, it's shifting from thinking about mutual funds or stocks to real estate. It's about figuring out where you want to be in 10 years. That's what I skipped when I first started investing. I was just acquiring properties and I had no goal. So I had no way to gauge whether or not I was being successful. So, you have to shift your mindset and really study and learn how successful multifamily investors think about the asset. Then in prime, you have to prime yourself to be successful when you actually do pull the trigger. So it's creating your success team, whether you're active or passive. You need people on your team to help you along, whether it's lawyers, accountants, wealth planning professionals, you name it. You have to, get all your different funnels in order. So whether it's, your broker relationships, whether it's your capital relationships, you have to get all that stuff done. And then when you actually pull the trigger in the invest stage, it's about working those funnels. So like working through your systems, your underwriting process. So there's a whole funnel I take people through from the time the deal comes to the top of the funnel, through the first underwriting pass, site visit, second pass, LOI, all that stuff. It's just working those funnels at that point. So yeah, those are the 3 stages, right? You got to shift your mindset. You have to prime yourself for success. And then you actually have to go out and do it. And I'm not sure about you, but we probably come across a lot of people who get stuck at step number 2. Pull the trigger and get stuff done.
So I took some notes here, and I think I wrote it down wrong initially. I instead of writing shift, prime, and invest, I wrote shit, crime, and confess. And I was like, wow. Oh, that might be, I kind of obviously added on to the words, but I thought, that'd be the opposite.
Shit, crime, I like that better.
Well, I guess if that's like the mob handbook, right? What you go through if you're doing something shady. But no, on a serious note, the idea that you talked about really is that people get analysis paralysis, right? I remember I looked at deals for years. I had one single family, and just for like 8 years, I was going to meetups, or 6 years, I was going to meetups, and I didn't do anything. I just kind of was there, and I just took it. I think what really got me actually to take action was meeting somebody who was doing it. And I think that's where live events are super powerful, because you meet someone who's like left their job. I had a great corporate job making over 200,000 a year. I left it about a year ago just to go full time, even though I've been doing it before. I've been in real estate, but I was able to leave. And like, that's awesome. So when I share my story, it's transformational, right? There's transformation in that. So for you obviously you have your conference. So can you give us like a few reasons? And there's really don't do much sales on this show, but I think it's so great that anybody who's in Canada or even the Northeast US should get there. Tell us what's going to happen at your conference.
Yeah, like I'm a big, and with the shutdowns that happened over the past 2 years, I think we really lost a really important piece of real estate, because the foundation of real estate is interpersonal relationships with people, and that happens face to face. Like you and I, we're talking over the computer. That's fine. But our conversation would be 10 times better if we were facing the same spot, right? The body language, the energy, the vibe we get, the understanding. There's no replacement for that. And as much as some people said, everything can go virtual, that's not the case. So I'm a huge believer in bringing people together in person, because the energy of like 2,500 investors in one spot is like, you can't beat it. And then you have the networking, like you never know, and it's all about the serendipitous conversations you have. So on Zoom, if you attend a virtual event, you're not going to rub shoulders with somebody, standing in line for the bathroom, start talking, and then find out you may actually be able to purchase his building or something.
Right.
It happens in person and you don't expect it. Online, you don't have that. So those are just like two benefits of just getting in person. And then you've got like the parties, right? Like, sure, there's the learning stuff. Like, yeah, you can learn from A-Rod, like you can learn from Grant, you can learn from everybody else. But let's be honest, like when you actually party, you get to know people a whole lot better. And that's have some really cool conversations outside of the main event. But plus we got all other stuff going on too. But like real estate's in person, like that's the bread and butter. Like we got to get back out and rub shoulders and shake hands.
I love it, man. And I think it's so true. I think that I run a meetup here in Pasadena, California, and it's great being in person. It's really great, but there's something about getting around, like a national conference, or people that have sometimes traveled or many times traveled across different areas or states, or was it provinces in Canada, provinces, or even different states in the US or different countries, obviously. But to be there and to be in the room, and just you get to meet people that it can really be life-changing. You make some great connections, and it's happened for me. That's been amazing. What's one thing, when you look back, obviously you've achieved a great level of success, you're doing big deals, you have your conference, you've got all this stuff that you're doing. What's one thing when you look back that you would have done differently, or that you would say, hey, here's a lesson. You said you did it the wrong way. I did this. Okay, well, let's take us back before then. And like, okay, you're talking to younger self and like, here, Seth, just do this. And like, here's the plan. Like, here's exactly what I would do.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I've got things I would do differently, but I think number one, I would get into multifamily right away and skip the whole single family stuff. I call it my lost decade. Like I wasted 10 years and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars doing the single family stuff. So yeah, like, but that all stemmed from me not knowing where I wanted to go. Did not have a roadmap, a plan, a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. By the time I got around to doing that, I was totally on the wrong path. So anybody I talk to when they're first getting started, figure out what you want your life to look like. I know a guy whose whole goal is to run his portfolio from a pub in Ireland. So every decision he will make is focused on making that happen.
That's awesome.
The structuring he uses, like the people he brings on the team, everything will be different from me because that's his goal. And that you have to figure out so you can make the same decisions to make your life happen the way you want it to.
Yeah, that's great. No, I think that's right. Starting with the end in mind. I mean, obviously having goals is important, but starting with what do I want this to look like? What do I value? What do I want my life to look like in 5 years or 10 years or at the end of my life, and working backwards. I mean, that's how people really achieve great things, right? Is they do that and they work towards those things in smaller or intermediate steps. I think that's amazing. So let's just talk for a minute too about we're kind of getting close to wrapping up here, but so you talked about your advice of the not shit, but shift, prime, and invest. I got that in my head now. But yeah, basically kind of getting ready, getting out there, getting to events, meeting people. Anything else that you suggest? Any books, any resources, any other, maybe anything that you have that, courses or anything that you offer that kind of helps people to get educated on this?
Oh, for sure. Like, I've got a course called Discover Multifamily, and the whole goal of that course, like we talked about focus, is getting you from ground zero to your very first deal. Like that's the only focus. And it's very much an action-based program. because I felt there was a huge gap there in terms of the education that's available. So it gets you from ground zero to your very first deal. So that's Discover Multifamily. But just in terms of like resources, like we've got the YouTube channel. I post a new video every week specific to multifamily. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that we produce just because, you know, we're trying to get the word out there and help people get on the right path.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the value you're bringing, all the things that you're doing to help people. Obviously, you know, you've got your education, your events. I can tell for guys like you and I, it's more about really helping people get where they want to go. And in the process of doing that, we obviously get to partner and do very well with investors and individuals. But I just so appreciate the positive attitude and energy you bring, and just really trying to help people, and you know, particularly from Canada to get into the US. I think that's such a great, noble thing to do. So awesome, man. Well, how can people follow you, get in touch with you, and you know, hear about your conference and just connect with you on a deeper level?
Yeah, for sure. So the best way to find me is go to youtube.com/Seth Ferguson. That's the YouTube channel. Most people find me through YouTube these days. And then to check out the conference, go to multifamilyconference.ca. And last year we basically had every single state, almost every single state in every province represented at the conference.
Wow.
Don't think we had anybody from Alaska, but I think we hit everybody everywhere else. So yeah, it's very much an international, you know, North American event.
That's awesome. Well, I love it. Well, I can't wait to hear more about it. And I'm really excited about what you're doing, Seth. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This was fun.
All right, so this was a fun interview. I really enjoyed it. Seth is just super, you know, super nice guy. Just, I feel like a lot of Canadians I meet are just really nice people. I don't know if I've met one mean Canadian, but I think there's a pride in like, hey, we're Canadians, we're going to be nice to everybody, which would be great if that were the case everywhere. But anyway, what I love about this is just the idea of taking action, getting things moving, how it works for people from Canada or another country to invest in the US. And I think there's some questions that I actually get a lot of international investors that watch stuff on YouTube. I don't know, maybe you're in another country watching this or listening to this. And, you know, there are ways to invest in US real estate, and there are ways to structure that really make sense. It's just, you got to figure out how to structure it so you don't get double taxed and make it work for you and your business. So those are a couple takeaways. You also talked about making a shift in your mindset. So we really are the ones that limit ourselves, particularly with starting with single family. We really limit what we are able to do on our own just by simply, we've never done something else. We've never done something bigger. And so this allows it for us. When we prime, it's where we're learning, we're growing, we're educating, we're networking, and then we actually invest, or we find deals, or we raise money. So there's ways to do it. If you haven't invested, if you're interested in joining our investor club, we've got the Bronson Equity Investor Club, seeing some awesome deals right now, particularly in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as our ATM machine fund, which is great. You can go to bronsonequity.com and hit the join button. We'll start a relationship with you, set up a call, get to know you, and have the chance to work together on some deals. So thanks for taking the time to educate yourself. I really say thank you, because when you educate yourself, it allows us all to get better, right? So I appreciate you spending time with me and spending time with Seth today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Mailbox Money.
You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.